The Fed15 podcast is presented by Serving Those Who Serve, a financial planning practice serving federal government employees and retirees all over the country. This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended to be taken as financial advice. All listeners should consult their personal advisors before taking any action. The opinions expressed by our hosts are their own and do not reflect the views, policies, or position of either Raymond James or Serving Those Who Serve. Securities are offered through Raymond James Financial Services, Inc., member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services are offered through Raymond James Financial Services Advisors, Inc. Serving Those Who Serve is not a registered broker-dealer and is independent of Raymond James Financial Services, Inc.
Welcome, everyone, to the Fed15 podcast presented by Serving Those Who Serve. Each week, we discuss the latest news and info that Feds need to know in 15 minutes-ish or less. Sometimes I run over. I get a little wordy. So whether you're a seasoned federal employee or just starting out in your career, Fed15's got you covered. So grab your coffee, energy drink, green juice, whatever gets you going, kick back, and we'll tell you what you need to know but might have missed. We are your hosts. I'm Dan Sipe, and I am joined by the incomparable, incredible Katelyn Murray.
Awesome. Love it. 2 adjectives this week.
Indeed.
Into it. Hey guys, welcome to a brand new episode of the Fed15, a very special episode, in fact. Dan, you want to tell them why it's special?
Because Katelyn and I are celebrating an anniversary.
We are.
It's boy, tempus fugit. Time flies. Okay.
We got on to record this morning and I was like, Dan, did you get me any flowers? It's our anniversary.
Yes, she did. And actually, it's a great tie-in because I was about to dial up my daughter, who's a professor in gender studies, and I'll bet you she'd have something on there about maybe I should get flowers too.
I'm sure. I'm sure. Maybe.
But we'll see. But again, actually, shout out to my daughter. She is in her first year of teaching, and this is her first wave of finals. And she was sharing with me yesterday that she didn't realize how much work it was reading everybody's finals. She just thought from the side of how much work it was to complete the final. And it's like, oh, my poor profs, they had to read all these. So shout out to Delia. Super proud of you and keep up the good work. But yes, it is indeed 1 year. It doesn't seem that long. Does it seem that long to you, Katelyn? It doesn't seem that long to me. No,
it doesn't. 1 year. It's crazy.
I mean, if you held my feet to the fire, outside of knowing this, and you walked up to me and said, hey, how long have you all been doing Fed15? I probably would have gone 6 months.
Yeah.
I know we've been doing it for a bit. Fun. Oh, it does indeed. It does indeed. And hopefully our feds are having fun with it too.
Yeah, I hope so. We've gotten some good feedback. We've heard from some listeners. We've heard from some folks who took us up on our offer to, reach out if there's ever, something that we cover that you don't fully understand, or if there's an element of your benefits that just is leaving you a little bit confused. We always, drop our ask STWS at stwserve.com. We've had some folks reach out there. We've had some great conversations, and yeah, I think it's a good little weekly boost to your Tuesday.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Everybody needs something to look forward to on Tuesdays. Tuesdays are like the ickiest day of the week. Monday is exciting because you have like the energy going in and you're like, yeah, it's going to be a great week. And then you hit like Tuesday, Wednesday, and it's like, meh. And then Thursday is Friday Eve. Everybody
what about
loves
Taco
it.
Tuesday?
Well, that is true. That is true. Taco Tuesday
Taco Tuesday goes a long way towards, blunting Tuesday boredom.
I think I don't have a weekday like limit or specification on my tacos though. Like every day is Taco Tuesday almost.
Well, it's funny. I was listening to a comedian that was saying, she's from up in the Midwest, and she was saying that, she's pretty sure she's not allowed to have tacos any night Tuesday. So I think consult your local jurisdiction before you actually. Do we need to put that in the disclaimer?
Yeah, we may need to work that in.
When it comes to tacos. So, Katelyn, fun fact question for you.
Yeah.
What does this episode have in common with our first episode?
Oh, I already looked at the episode guidelines, so I can't answer.
That's okay.
Being
prepared for the test.
It's true. I studied. Delia would
Yep.
be proud. We covered in our first episode the listeners who have been with us from the beginning, or the folks who jumped in midstream and went all the way back to the beginning, because that's a thing in the podcast world. I don't know if you know that. But we covered Public Service Recognition Week on our very first episode, which was great. Kind of a great way to launch. And we're covering it again this week. Dan has some
Indeed.
updates for us.
So here we go. Thank you, Feds. Round of applause. Okay. So yes, Public Service in Recognition Week. Now, as you know, if you attend our webinars, if you listen to the Fed Life podcast, I was open with, thank you for your service. You don't hear it enough. You always hear it here. So hopefully you realize that's a mainstay for us, but I'm very happy that this does exist because the depth and breadth of people in federal service is truly extraordinary. So from scientists in a lab at FDA to FEMA workers on the ground to our NASA astronauts up on the ISS to our letter carriers and all the feds in between. Once again, we thank you for your service. Most people outside of what we do, I think, take you for granted. You're the glue that holds everything together. You've heard me say that before. So another thing that's kind of cool about this week is the finalists for the Sammys are announced. And a lot of feds know what that is. Some might not. That's kind of like the Oscars for federal employees. And so there are dozens of feds in the running for Employee of the Year. Give a couple of shout outs here. We're not saying these are our faves. Okay. So we only have 15 minutes. I'll run this thing to an hour saying thanks to feds, but people get really mad if they came here expecting 15 minutes. So
yeah, it's a little bit more than ish.
We have Stephen Hughes at NASA. We have Tara Fitzgerald at EPA, Darnita Trower at the IRS, to name but a few, and hit our website for the full article. We have the full list and some shout outs to some previous winners. In 2023, it was Laura Cooper from DOD. In 2022, this was for you, Katelyn.
It was our man.
Gregory Robinson from NASA,
my man.
Your guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then back in 2021, Barney Graham and Kazmekia Corbett, and it was 2 winners for their work on the COVID vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, thank you for that. I'm a happy consumer. I get my shots regularly, going to keep doing that. So thank you. And to just put a bow on it, thank you, feds. One of these years when we do this, I gotta get a clip that I can drop in of Kermit the Frog applauding, because I think that level of enthusiasm sort of captures it for me.
We might be able to make it happen.
See, I don't want to get sued by Henson's estate though.
I know.
So,
yeah.
I gotta be careful.
My copyright law textbook, and then I'll get back.
There we go. I know I can reference him. So yay! So thank you. And Katelyn, you've got some info for us on how the TSP did in April, correct?
I do. So obviously, month end figures for April are in. And as our routine listeners know, we do always like to kind of keep you guys abreast on, how things are looking in the TSP, how the different funds are performing, just to kind of, touch base on it. So we'll do a TSP rundown. 4 of the 5 TSP funds this month did have negative returns. We did see a bit of a market pullback. Factors that may have contributed to that, I think one of the big factors that kind of contributed there was the Fed announcing that they weren't going to lower interest rates, right? Inflation being more under control, the market as a whole, I think, and in, kind of the clamoring in the days leading up to the announcement, I think they, folks were expecting the Fed to kind of adjust interest rates down. When everybody's expecting us to turn right and we turn left instead, or we go straight, or we do anything other than what we were expecting, then we do normally see a reaction in the markets, possibly a temporary pullback. I don't necessarily think this is the start of another bear market, being that those typically happen on average about once every 7 years. And we all remember 2022, right? Just a year and a half ago. So I don't think that, we don't think that there's a cause for concern or a need to panic, but not such an optimistic outlook on the month of April. Obviously, as we go through the numbers here in a second, G Fund is the one fund that was positive. So if you guessed that, gold star for you. G Fund, as we know, is not subject to market volatility. So it is, basically cash, it's treasury. And so you're not going to see as much of a fluctuation there in G fund. A lot of our Feds love G fund for that. Be careful not to love it too much because it's not as great at keeping up with inflation. And as we all know, how many times have I talked about the three-legged stool on the podcast, Dan? Our Feds have mostly a three-legged stool for retirement, pension, Social Security, investment portfolio. The investment portfolio is really what you're going to be leveraging to outpace inflation in your retirement and before.
Yep.
So be careful with that G fund. I know it hurts to see red on the statement, but careful with that G fund, because sometimes enduring the volatility is worth it. C fund is the best fund year to date so far. And let's get into the specific numbers here. So C fund showing a negative 4.08% return for the month of April. I fund lagging just behind with a negative 3.17% return. F fund right behind that with a negative 2.47% return. And then G fund, our positive return was 0.35%. S fund had the worst return of the month, the award that nobody wants to win, with negative 6.46% return for just the month of April. Year to date, the picture is a little bit more optimistic. C fund, as we mentioned, has that over 6% return year to date. S fund is sitting just about even. It's got a 0.01% return so far for the year. I fund is at 2.6%. F fund is at negative 3.2%. And the G fund year to date is about 1.4. So if we kind of, whenever we kind of go through months where there is this sort of pullback, right, where the numbers don't look as optimistic, I think it's helpful to look at the long-term returns, right? Sure. Because in the grand scheme of things, 1 month in the market is not going to mean anything to you when you are 77 and in retirement and living off your portfolio and enjoying life. A year in the market, believe it or not, probably not going to matter much to you when you're, in retirement and you're living off long-term money. But if we look at 10-year returns, we get a little bit clearer picture. I think we get some perspective. So kind of bear with me as we go through those 10-year returns. C fund, we're seeing 12.4% for the 10-year. S fund, we're seeing 8.62% for the 10-year return. I fund, we're seeing 4.66. F fund, we're seeing 1.39. And the 10-year return on the G fund is sitting at about 2.38%. So the G fund, I will just call out 2.38% 10-year return. In our financial plans here at Serving Those Who Serve, we typically use about a 3% base inflation rate. It is a little bit padded. Historically, inflation is around 2 to 2.25%. We want to allow room for the possibility that inflation over the next 50 to 100 years could be higher than it was historically. And so that's why we use that percentage. 2.38% is lagging behind 3% inflation.
It also bears mention that the F fund is a little bit skewed because of really getting clobbered in 2022.
Yes. Yeah.
Its historical averages typically would be higher than that.
Yes, it typically would be. I was actually just talking about this in a client meeting this morning. F fund is really kind of fighting its way back. Fixed income in general is fighting its way back from the double bear market that we saw in 2022. Stocks, yes, stocks were down in 2022. Market was down as a whole over 20%. Stocks were definitely down. Bonds were also down at the same time. And obviously, down markets we refer to as bear markets. So a double bear market was, fixed income and equities being down at the same time. Very rare occurrence. The last time it happened before 2022, Dan, do you know what year it was?
Double bear market, I'm going to say late 60s.
Oh, 1994, actually.
1994. Okay.
Happened in 1994. So obviously not something that happens very, very often at all. However, equities are volatile, right? We know equities go up and they go down. Equities are sort of made for that. Equities have volatility all the time. Stocks are down, stocks bounce back up, right? Fixed income, a little bit different. Fixed income is kind of steady Eddie most of the time. So when it does take a clobbering, it's not unusual that it could take a couple of years for it to kind of build itself back up, work its way back up. So what we're seeing in the F fund, to folks who study the market is not, a cause for concern or a reason for panic. If you don't have a TSP strategy and you are panicked or concerned or worried in any way, or you just don't know what's going on in your TSP. Maybe you check it every so often, you look at the balance, you don't really know what the different funds are or what they mean or how it's allocated, reach out to us. Ask STWS at STWserve.com. At the very least, we can make sure that you understand the TSP, the different funds, and what purposes they serve. And of course, if you're looking for somebody to work with on an investment strategy, to work with one-on-one for financial planning, we can absolutely do that for you. So,
absolutely. For sure. And folks, I think that's all the time we have for today. But have no fear. We will be back next week to bring you the latest updates you need to make informed decisions about your career and financial well-being as a Fed.
Absolutely. And so that you don't miss next week's episode, be sure to subscribe to our podcast on either our YouTube channel or on Spotify so that you never miss an episode with us. And please do share it with your friends and colleagues. That's the number one way you can support the show and support our mission to educate all Feds.
To reach, teach, and serve. And for more information, yes, there's even more on the topics we've covered today. Be sure to check out our blog at blog.stwserve.com and subscribe to our newsletter, The Weekly Serving, to get all the latest news for Feds delivered straight to your inbox every week. You don't have to go looking for it.
Absolutely. And for those who want to dive even deeper into learning about your federal benefits and financial planning for Feds, we encourage you to join us for one of our complimentary webinars. We are doing these all the time. Coming up, we've got a FERS pension webinar on June 4th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And we've also got an estate planning for Feds webinar coming up on June 11th, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. I highly encourage you to join us for that one if you are somebody who doesn't have a will, or if you are somebody who did a will 20 years ago, or maybe you did a will when your kids were underage and now they're, college age, or, joining the workforce. Highly, highly encourage you to join us for the estate planning webinar, June 11th, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. This is something that we all need to be thinking about. And unfortunately, it tends to be the bottom item on the to-do list from year to year and not quite get checked off. Of course, if you prefer a one-on-one approach to financial planning and investment management, feel free to reach out to our team directly for a consultation and ask. STWS at STWserve.com is that email address again.
Absolutely. We're here for you, folks. So, once again, thank you. Thank you for all you do. Okay. Thank you for being the glue that holds everything together. And thank you for listening to the Fed15. I'm Dan Sipe.
And I am Katelyn Murray.
And we will see you next week.
And next year, and the year after that, and the year after that.
Yes, you can't get rid of us. We keep showing up.
Take care, folks.